Your old or broken phone can let you down when you need it most.
Perfect.
But at Verizon, trade in any old phone from our top brands and get the most for it, up to $2,000 in value, for an amazing new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence and a new line on My Plan, and iPad and Apple Watch Series 10. That's like a 3-for-1. And you can get it on any plan. At Verizon, trade in your old phone for a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, iPad, and Apple Watch. The other guys won't give you that. Visit Verizon.com today. Additional terms apply. Service plan required for Apple Watch and iPad. Up to $2,000 value based on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. I am your host, Josh All, today, coming to you guys with my mock draft 3.0, breaking down what I predict the Browns to do, their mindset, their thought process going through the NFL draft here after the first week of free agency. Now, full disclaimer, I'm recording this on Saturday, so here we are in the weekend. I'm putting this together, and there's a chance that more signings happen this week, and we've gone a couple days now without the Browns doing anything, and this weekend could change the whole landscape of what we're looking at in the draft come April. But currently, the only moves the Browns have really made to, well, first of all, to bolster the offensive side of the ball, they traded for Kenny Pickett. I heard Todd McShay describe that move as weird. Thought that was an interesting way to describe it because I also felt like it was a weird move. And we signed backup swing tackle Lucas Cornelius. So we have made a couple moves on offense, but that's it. Just two. We've added no talent in terms of playmakers or skill position players or anything like that. And on the defensive side of the ball, Malik Collins, defensive tackle, was signed to a 2-year contract. We re-signed linebacker Devin Bush, and we signed outside linebacker edge rusher Joe Tryon Shoyinka. I'm still working on that name, and I will get it right eventually, but I think that was pretty close. You guys got to hand it. I think that was pretty close. So we're going to go ahead and do this mock draft. Like I said, things might change this weekend. Maybe the Browns make a trade for a wide receiver, which I do still anticipate. I'm kind of just, the silence on the wide receiver front to me, it really smells of a trade coming over the horizon because we've made no signings whatsoever in free agency to even bolster the depth there. We've got very few receivers on the active roster who've even really caught touchdown passes in the NFL. So that position really needs addressed. We haven't touched a tight end yet. We've done really not much. Running back, we haven't signed anybody because I didn't think we would. Honestly, this is not the year or the free agent class to be signing and giving big money to running backs. We did just see Kareem Hunt got a contract with the Chiefs yesterday, and forgive me, I should have brought it up, but it was something like $1.5 million base. It was a $2.5 million 1-year contract or whatever to come back to Kansas City. And I posted on social media, that seems like the market value for Nick Chubb. So I do anticipate Nick Chubb being back on a deal similar to that. And I can't imagine he's going to sign more, right? Because Kareem Hunt's coming off a not season-ending injury, and he was impactful for the Chiefs down the stretch in their backfield. Nick Chubb coming off back-to-back season-ending injuries now. We've talked about it a ton, but I just think the situation warrants the same sort of deal that we saw Kareem Hunt receive. So I'm still waiting for the news on that front. But other than that, I do not expect the Browns to do anything at running back in free agency ahead of the draft. Now, they might add a guy or two after the draft or whatever, just to, for depth and for camp and all that stuff. But as of right now, don't expect a whole lot more. So let's get into this mock draft. Before I do, make sure you guys like the video here on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell so you don't miss anything new. Our 500 episode celebration live show will be Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. We're also going to stream it to Facebook and Twitter, or X, I guess, if you want to get up with the times. I just cannot stop calling it Twitter. But anyway, X. And, we're going to be giving away the 3 Dogs Podcast t-shirts. So if you want an opportunity to win one of the t-shirts. All you got to do is become a YouTube member to our channel right here on YouTube between now and the end of that episode, or by the time we draw the names. And we're going to give away a Browns jersey to somebody in our Dog Pack community on Patreon. So if you want an opportunity to win the jersey, jointhedogs.com, head over there and you get access to the private Discord and all that cool stuff that we do at the Dog Pack. And you get a head start on the fantasy football signups for next year and everything, or I guess for this year. Just, it's an awesome place to be. Great community. Jointhedogs.com. And we're also going to give away another, we'll call it a grand prize. It's something that Justin came away with that we're going to give away. And we're not going to say what it is right now. We'll say it on the show Monday, but it's pretty cool. And you guys are going to like it. And it might tie into something that I have already mentioned here in the open. I don't know. Just maybe. Anyway, so let's kick it over here to let me pull up my notes so that way I'm ready to rock and roll. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about this mock draft. So I'm just going to kick things off here. Pick 2. We're not getting cute. We're not getting fancy. It's going to be exactly what I did in my mock draft 1.0. It's going to be Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Again, 6'2", 215, 23 years old. I saw Tony Grossi's mock draft this week, and he had the Browns trading with the Giants down to 3. Giants came up to 2 to select Shedeur. Browns gained some capital. I didn't watch the mock draft. I just saw the post on Twitter from ESPN Cleveland, but the Browns gained some sort of draft capital in return to make that swap. They moved to 3, gained the extra draft capital, whatever it was, and select Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. It was an interesting mock, and I can't say I hated it. I'm very torn between, Shedeur Sanders at 2, or do we want to get some extra draft capital and come away with Jackson Dart? A guy like that. I obviously am still very much crushing on Cam Ward, but I don't think there's any way Tennessee trades out of that spot. I think that he's their guy. I think they're taking him locked in. We'll see what happens. Maybe a trade happens. Maybe they move. Maybe they just end up not taking him and they go with Abdul Carter. I don't know what's going to happen, but if I had to bet, Cam Ward goes 1. And with the Browns here, I'm not doing any trades in this mock. I'll do a mock here eventually with some trades in it or something like that. But today, we are sticking with Shedeur Sanders at number 2. So that moves us into the first pick in the second round, pick 33 in the NFL draft. And this one's going to be interesting. It's a guy that we like. I know Blake really likes this guy. And I've got some other options at pick 33 that I want to walk through at some point. I'll just mention them here probably, but I'm not going to go too deep because I got to see what the Browns end up doing. If they end up trading for a wide receiver, then this pick makes a lot more sense to me. If they don't do anything at wide receiver, though, ahead of the draft, then at pick 33, I've seen some mocks. I've listened to some industry mocks on podcasts and things where they actually have wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka, dropping out of the first round. And if Egbuka is available after the show closes down on Thursday night, I am going to be pounding social media ferociously for the Browns to run to this podium on Friday at 7 o'clock when the draft opens and just say, we want Emeka Egbuka. So maybe we'll do a mock at some point here where he's the pick. I also love Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, the wide receiver. You guys know I'm a Trey Harris guy. I think he is going to be a dog in the NFL. But today I'm still leaving some room, some leeway for Andrew Berry to make a trade for a wide receiver to bolster that room. So at 33, I'm going to stick with my trend of taking an offensive lineman. I took one. I took Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon in mock 1. In mock 2, I took Donovan Jackson, the interior offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Today, at pick 33, I am taking Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman, we'll just call him a guru, out of North Dakota State. 6'6", 312 pounds. He's 22 years old. Now, for this pick, though, I do need to put a disclaimer out here. This pick really bucks the Andrew Berry's trends for me, okay? I truly do not... I have a hard time seeing Andrew Berry selecting Gray Zabel over a Josh Connerly Jr. if he's available, or somebody like Ariante Ursary, the offensive tackle out of Minnesota, or Donovan Jackson. If those type of guys are available at 33 and they make it out of the first round, and Gray Zabel also makes it out of the first round, it's just a little bit tough. And here's why. Andrew Berry has only drafted 3 players in 5 years now. So we have half a decade of information on how Andrew Berry handles his drafts. And in that half decade, he has only drafted 3 players who did not come from a Power 4 conference. He took Alex Wright from UAB. He took Harrison Bryant from Florida Atlantic. And he took Miles Harden from South Dakota. That's it. Every other player he's drafted has come from a Power 4 conference. So this would be a high pick, a high value draft capital spot to buck that trend of his. So I don't know if he would do it. To take a player from the Missouri Valley Football Conference with the top pick in the second round, I just feel like the odds are low. But I will now talk to you why I took Gray Zabel here and why I think it would not be a bad move for the Browns in any way, shape, or form. His NFL draft profile says he is a tough guy profile on this prospect coming out of North Dakota State. Zabel has an NFL frame with room for additional mass and possesses a good starting point in terms of his play strength. He has to play with really quick hands and good feet in order to compensate for short arms that make sustaining blocks and controlling pass rushers more challenging. Teams might ask Zabel to snap during draft season in order to project positional flexibility. So the reason I could see Andrew Berry actually having interest in Gray Zabel the way I do here at pick 33 is because of his versatility. He has played 4 out of the 5 starting line spots during his time in college. He gives a lot of flexibility to the Browns on the offensive line in the future. Jack Conklin just got his contract reworked. He will be a free agent next year in 26, and he probably won't be back. So he's likely out of here in 26. So right there, boom. Gray Zabel could be the starting right tackle as soon as next year. Let's see, who else? Joel Bitonio could retire, almost retired this year, really considered it. So maybe next year, Gray Zabel ends up being the new left guard. Maybe DeJuan Jones doesn't really work out at left tackle. Zabel can move over and play left tackle. Maybe we cut or we trade Wyatt Teller in the offseason next year to clear up some cap space. All of a sudden, Zabel becomes your new right guard. He is a big body to go along with all of that versatility, knowing that he has the capability of playing any one of those positions. He's also one of the players at the Senior Bowl that stood out to our guy, Barry Shuck from Dogs by Nature. Barry told me that there was only one offensive lineman who could stop the edge rusher, Mike Green, during the one-on-ones, and that guy was Gray Zabel. So here at pick 33, for me, it is Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. All right, moving on. Pick 67, the third pick in the third round. And I am going to go with TJ Sanders, another Sanders, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. 6'4", 297 pounds. He's just 21 years old. And again, I'm going to emphasize, like I have on previous episodes here, Andrew Berry drafts at least one defensive tackle every single year, and he never takes his first defensive tackle later than the 4th round. Now, this is early in the 3rd, right at the top of the 3rd round, really. So this might be a little early for him to take a defensive tackle this year, but it's still in the range of possibilities and likely outcomes for Andrew Berry. This is a consistently premium position for the Browns in terms of draft capital, the way they use their draft capital. So here at 67, Andrew Berry selects the top defensive tackle on the board in TJ Sanders. Just for a little history, he has used picks 88, 132, 108, 98, and 54 on defensive tackles. He's also used pick 243 last year on Jawan Briggs, just kind of as a flyer late. Let's see, TJ Sanders' NFL draft profile. Sanders is a powerful roadblock with heavy hands and a strong core. He rarely touches the ground. Despite a lack of knee bend, he usually gives better than he gets, and blockers have a hard time keeping him sealed. He punches and locks out quickly with a twitchy shed to tackle a gap over. His rush features average first step quickness, but sudden hand swipes and play through power in his lower half open pathways to the pocket. Sanders' blend of power and pressure should put him on the board for both odd and even front defenses as a potential 3-down solution. It sounds like the type of defensive tackle that would really perk up Andrew Berry's ears if he was available at this point in the draft. So, like I mentioned, 67 here, it might be a little high this year for the Browns to go DT. And I'm saying that this mock, after this week, when we just signed Malik Collins to a 2-year deal to go along with Mike Hall and Shelby Harris on that defensive interior. But listen to what I just said. Mike Hall and Shelby Harris. Shelby Harris is kind of an older defensive tackle now. He's an older player. And the depth right now in the interior is just it's not great. It really still isn't great. So you got Malik Collins, you got Mike Hall, who, remember, just suffered a season-ending knee injury at the end of the season. So there's no guarantee on his availability or readiness to start 2025. The Browns seem to think that he'll be ready to start, but we've seen this with injuries in the past. I mean, just look at the tackles last year. Conklin and Jed Wills all summer long leading up to the season, we're saying, any updates? These guys should be ready, right? And they weren't. So there's no guarantee that Mike Hall is going to be ready. And after those guys, you got Jawan Briggs, who was a 6th, 7th round pick last year, kind of showed a couple things on tape toward the end of the year, but he was just filling in, a spot. And then you got the CFL guy, Ralph Hawley. So that's it for your interior defensive line. So I would definitely not rule out Andrew Berry grabbing a guy like TJ Sanders right here if he's available. This episode is sponsored by Butcher Box for Pets. Browns fans, it's about time the dogs offered you something for the real dogs in your life. Our furry friends aren't just pets, they're part of the family. And you wouldn't let yourself or your children eat strange meat from questionable sources, and your dog shouldn't either. Right now, head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs or use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, to get 20% off your entire order. At ButcherBox, they believe in real ingredients. Their pet foods have been developed and certified by vet nutritionists to contain 0 artificial flavors or preservatives. You get protein-packed formula with over 50% of the recipe comprised of third-party certified humane ButcherBox meat, plus functional ingredients like pre- and postbiotics to support your dog's vitality and digestion. And ButcherBox even removes the guesswork for you. Their custom meal plans are perfectly portioned to fit your dog's nutritional needs based on 8 factors, including age, weight, and activity level. I know my home wouldn't be the same without Odie, our 100-pound golden who thinks he's a 10-pound lap dog. And it gives us peace of mind knowing that we're giving him quality food instead of that factory processed garbage from the store. And speaking of the store, no need to add dog food to the shopping list ever again. ButcherBox delivers their high-quality food right to your door on the right feeding schedule for your dog. And you can change, modify, or pause your plan at any time. So head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs and use promo code DAWGS for 20% off your order. It's time for all of us dogs to give all of our dogs the nutrition they deserve.
Your old or broken phone can let you down when you need it most.
Perfect.
But at Verizon, trade in any old phone from our top brands and get the most for it, up to $2,000 in value, for an amazing new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence and a new line on My Plan, and iPad and Apple Watch Series 10. That's like a 3-for-1. And you can get it on any plan. At Verizon, trade in your old phone for a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, iPad, and Apple Watch. The other guys won't give you that. Visit Verizon.com today. Additional terms apply. Service plan required for Apple Watch and iPad. Up to $2,000 value based on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch.
Okay, pick 94, the tail end here. Pick 30 in the 3rd round. The Browns, again, I'm leaving the door open for a move at wide receiver ahead of the draft. If that doesn't change, my mock drafts are definitely going to change, and there will be receiver being picked a lot sooner than this. But in this instance, right now, I'm still going to kind of wait a little bit because here at 94, I was able to grab Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU, 6'4", 222 pounds. He's 23 years old. I hesitated a little bit with this pick just because of the age, but I'm kind of backing off that a little bit, especially at this point in the draft, because we saw Andrew Berry take Cedric Tillman in the 3rd round 2 years ago, and he was 23 years old at the time. So we do have precedence for Andrew Berry breaking the age boundary and all that kind of stuff that we've talked about with the Browns and their analytics and all that stuff. So for all of you fans out there who are in that no more wide receivers under 6 feet, 6 feet tall, if you're in that camp, this dude is for you. Savion Williams caught 60 of 83 targets for 611 yards and 6 touchdowns here in 2024. Now, 411 of those yards came after the catch. So he had 611 yards total. 411 of those yards came after the ball was already in his hands. That's 67% of his production came after the catch. He caught 8 of 9 contested catch throws for an 88.9% success rate. The biggest issue I saw with Williams was his 8 drops per PFF, and that was one of the highest in the class. But let's look at his NFL draft profile, and then we'll talk about why I think he could be a good fit for the Browns wide receiver room. His profile says developmental wideout who offers an alluring blend of physical gifts and untapped potential. Williams is big, strong, and fast, but very raw as a route runner and is unreliable with his hands. Talked about the drops. His production is uneven as a traditional wideout, but he adds a dynamic kick to the offense as a gadget runner and as a catch and run option underneath. He excels on power sweeps and is willful enough for consideration on short yardage and goal line carries on direct snaps. The ball skills can be hit or miss, but there are flashes to work with on tape. The difference between siren song or pot of gold could rest in Williams' technical development and the creativity of his play caller. So Savion Williams is definitely more of a project wide receiver, but at the end of the third round here, that's kind of what you're going to be getting with a lot of these guys anyhow, but his physical attributes, his skill set, the things that you can't really teach, the height, the weight, the strength, the speed, all that stuff, it's worth the swing, in my opinion. He has been comped a lot. I've seen this from a lot of analysts to Cordero Patterson, given that versatile skill set and the way that these analysts are projecting him to be best utilized when he gets to the NFL. I've also seen kind of like a Deebo Samuel role type with him, get the ball in his hands around the line of scrimmage and let him do the work after that. So this is not a guy who's going to be, stretching the field and doing all that kind of stuff on a consistent basis. Think Cordero Patterson, think Deebo Samuel and the way those guys are utilized, and that would be what Savion Williams would come in at least doing in the beginning. So it's another versatile player who can slot into different roles, and I think that would put him on Andrew Berry's radar. Again, you can put him out wide if you want to. You can put him in the slot. You can put him in the backfield. You can stretch him down the sideline. You can do the end arounds, the sweeps, run him out of the backfield. You can use him in the kick return game. He's done that in college, kind of like Cordero Patterson. So I don't think that he's really elite at any one thing, but I think he can be very effective at a lot of things. So for me here at 94, Savion Williams, the wide receiver out of TCU. 104, and this might be my favorite pick in this mock draft because I love this guy, and to get him here at 104 after we just took a wide receiver, we've already addressed the offensive line, we got our quarterback at the top, and now I am boosting the backfield with a guy that is not probably going to go up with the Travion Hendersons and the Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Johnsons and all those guys, the Omarion Hamptons. But if you can get this guy who does a lot of what those guys do here in the fourth pick in the fourth round at 104, I would be thrilled. And this guy, my guy, is Devin Neal, the running back out of Kansas. 5'11", 213 pounds, just 21 years old. He's a youngster, but he is a stud. NFL draft profile, workload runner with NFL size, and 4 years of steady production to help elevate the program at Kansas. Neal runs with a nice blend of patience and decisiveness. Oh, do we ever need some decisiveness to choose the right lanes and maximize each carry. He lacks top-end burst and speed, which will shrink the field for him, but he's a fall-forward runner with good contact balance and a nose for short yardage conversions. He has good instincts and soft hands in space and can help as a leak-out or swing pass option. His blue-collar approach is not exciting, but it is effective, and Neal has the ability to develop into a three-down back. That sounds exactly like the type of running back we need here in Cleveland. So he did run a slower 40, but that was kind of expected. Nobody thought that he was going to go in and blaze at the combine. He ran a 4.58, but if you watch the tape, you know that his game speed is going to translate to the NFL without any issue. So I'm not worried about what the Underwear Olympics said about his speed. He gets behind his blockers. He has excellent decisiveness. And after watching like Jerome Ford not be able to make a decision now for 2 years in a row, give me a guy who can see the lane and freaking go. Devin Neal had 219 carries for 1,266 yards and 16 touchdowns in 2024. He averaged 5 yards per carry. He caught 24 passes for 254 additional yards and another score. Devin Neal had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons at Kansas, back-to-back seasons now where he had 16 touchdowns each year. This young man is a machine, and I would love to have him in Cleveland. Andrew Berry has only ever drafted 2 running backs, and they've both been later round guys. So, again, I know we all want the Browns to take a guy early like Travion Henderson, I mentioned, Judkins, Scattaboo. But in a draft like this where you can find a potential workhorse running back in the 4th round, it's just hard for me to see Andrew Berry pulling the trigger at running back any higher than this, especially with all the other needs and the higher value that Andrew Berry places on those needs earlier in the draft. So right here, I think is a good spot for the Browns to take a guy to be the guy with Devin Neal out of Kansas. All right, pick 179. We skipped we're out of the rest of the fourth round. We got no fifth round picks now because we just traded our fifth round pick to the Eagles for Kenny Pickett, who, if the Browns don't sign a veteran, I mean, hey, maybe Kenny Pickett's the starter week one. I don't want to throw that out into the ether, but I guess I did, so whatever. But here at pick 179, the third pick in the sixth round, we are kicking it back over to the defensive side of the ball, and we are going to take a position that we really need to get a guy on a rookie deal who can develop and be a guy at the spot for the Browns for the next at least 4 seasons. And I'm taking Kobe King, the linebacker out of Penn State. So Kobe King here, he's going to kick off the first of 4 picks that the Browns have in the sixth round. Like I said, after they had no picks in the fifth. Kobe King, 6'1", 236 pounds, 22 years old. His NFL draft profile says that he is a big, productive inside linebacker who needs to play with good technique to make up for athletic and speed limitations. King is best in the confines of the box, where he can play downhill and utilize his physicality. He's good with block take-ons and can compress the runner's workspace. He loses ground pursuing outside runs and falls prey to missed tackles in the open field. King can be exploited on passing downs, but he plays with the toughness and physicality necessary to be a 2-down inside linebacker. He has the potential to become a starter. Give me that kind of potential and opportunity here in the sixth round. I mean, you are taking flyers and just complete and absolute dart throws in this space or in these rounds. And really you're just hoping for, can this guy come in and just contribute on special teams at first? Like, that's really what we need to give our starters a blow. And, you know, with Hicks and Devin Bush now coming back, I think that the Browns could go ahead, draft a guy like Kobe King, bring him in, let him develop, and, you know, just kind of see what he can become under Jim Schwartz on this Browns defense. Okay, 192, the 16th pick in the sixth round. It is our, I'm going to address a position that Andrew Berry has only addressed once in 5 years in the draft, and that is tight end. We are taking Oronde Gadsden II, tight end out of Syracuse. Oronde Gadsden, he's 6'5", 243 pounds, 21 years old, so he is a young guy. NFL draft profile, receiver to tight end convert, who comes from NFL bloodlines. Already, you got me intrigued. Gadsden is more of a big slot receiver than a pass-catching tight end. He gets hung up on press coverage and won't outrange NFL man coverage downfield, but his wingspan gives him a distinct advantage at the catch stage. He creates throwing windows when he's allowed to stay on the move, and he battles for contested catches. He needs to get stronger and become a little more competitive as a blocker, but there's enough receiving talent for him to be picked on day 3 of the draft. So like I said, only one tight end in 5 years for AB. So I do struggle mocking a tight end high, like I've seen a lot of people want to do with Harold Fannin and Elijah Arroyo and some of these guys up in like the third. Sometimes I'm not necessarily the second, but, you know, maybe with the trades and things that people want to project. They have not prioritized signing tight ends in free agency. So until I actually see them invest any, money, any free agent money, any high capital at the tight end 2 position for the team, I really can't do it here in my mock. So here in the 6th round, we're going to take Oronde Gadsden and we're going to get that tight end to develop. Okay, pick 200, the 24th pick here in the 6th round, our 3rd pick in the 6th round. I'm taking Justin Wally, the cornerback out of Minnesota, 5'10", 190 pounds, 22 years old, and this kid's got 4.4 speed, so he can move. NFL draft profile, highly experienced cornerback with good size, speed, and ball production. Wally has good mirror and match footwork in the early stages of the route, but he needs to trust his technique instead of using his hands in coverage so often. He keeps close tabs on quarterbacks and pounces on short throws with authority. He's irritating at the catch point, but can be bodied by big targets at times. He's willing in run support, but will need to improve his finishing against bigger runners. Wally played an overwhelming majority of his snaps outside, but he could be destined to slide inside due to a lack of length. In 2024, Justin Wally had 42 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 interceptions, and he scored a touchdown. So, we're talking late of the 6th, toward the end of the 6th round here. Just get me a depth cornerback that can come in, and who knows, maybe he can develop into more. We've seen it happen, and this guy seems as good as a bet as any at this position. 216, the 40th pick in the 6th round. That's right, the 40th pick. So it's our last pick in the 6th round. for this year. And we are going to head back over to the offensive side of the ball, and we are going to take Logan Brown, the offensive tackle out of Kansas. We already got Gray Zabel earlier. He's a versatile do-it-all lineman who can cover any of the positions on the line, maybe even center. We've already signed Lucas Cornelius to be the backup swing tackle, and now we're going to take a developmental offensive tackle who can hopefully become maybe he can become that new swing tackle backup, or maybe even a starter in the future. So just real quick, a note. I wanted to take wide receiver out of San Jose State, Nick Nash, here at this pick. And I want to shout out our boy Gage Tucker from the Dog Pack. Gage has been all over Nick Nash for months. Like since before the season even ended, he was Nick Nash. Got to look at Nick Nash. And Nick Nash had a great season. I mean, I think he led the entire, at least, I don't know if it was the entire college football, but he definitely led the entire wide receiver draft class in targets, receptions, yards, I think touchdowns too. I think he was just a straight up dog. But I just can't do it. Nick Nash has two big strikes against him when it comes to Andrew Berry and the Browns front office and their analytical approach. One, he's from a small school, so right there, probably not going to get picked. Two, he's already 25 years old. I broke the age barrier a little bit with Savion Williams at 23. Andrew Berry's not drafting a 25-year-old wide receiver. It's just not going to happen. So let's take Logan Brown and secure a depth piece on the offensive line. Logan Brown is 6'6", 311 pounds. NFL Draft Profile says he is a traits-based developmental tackle with only one full season as a college starter. Brown is high cut, but is unusually quick laterally and athletic in space for a player who plays so upright. He gets to zone blocking landmarks and is forceful with move contact, but his pad level limits his consistency as a man-to-man blocker. His protection improved rapidly during the season, but he still needs to develop an inside-out approach with pass sets and learn to recognize rush games more quickly. The bad looks really bad, but the good can look really good. The ceiling and floor are both moving upward, and Brown has early swing tackle value with a chance to develop into an NFL starter. That's what I'm looking for here in the 6th round with some of these developmental players. And finally, I know in the last two mocks, it looked like the Browns were going to have the Mr. Irrelevant pick, the very last pick in the 7th round. That is no longer the case after these compensatory picks were assigned and all that stuff. So we've got pick 255, the 35th pick in the 7th round. I think there's only 3 picks after us to wrap up the draft. So for all intents and purposes, it's pretty close to Mr. Irrelevant. But we are going to take R.J. Mickens, the safety out of Clemson. One more piece for the defensive side of the ball / special teams. He is 6 feet tall, 199 pounds, 23 years old. R.J. Mickens has a desirable blend of size and length for his move to the pros. The son of a former NFL cornerback, he plays like a pro with good pre-snap anticipation and post-snap instincts. His field awareness is a plus in zone coverage, but he's not sudden or fast, so technique and timing will be crucial for man cover success. His ability to alter pursuit angles and break down in space as a tackler help him stand out against others in this class. He is technically sound as a wrap-up tackler, but his stopping power is fairly average. Mickens answered questions about his speed at the NFL Combine, 4.49 second 40-yard dash, so his consistency in reading and responding to the play should not be diminished. In 2024, Mickens has 76 tackles, 7 passes defensed, and 2 interceptions. We already, post June 1st designated cut Jog Thornhill. We've got Grant Delpit at the up safety, strong safety spot. You've got Ronnie Hickman. And I think that's pretty much it for the Browns right now. We have signed no safeties in free agency. We're going to need a guy in the draft, most likely, to fill in here and kind of help us out on that side of the ball at that position. So R.J. Mickens here at the end of the 7th round sounds like a good pick to me. So that wraps up mock draft 3.0. We'll just kind of run through it again here real quick. As a quick recap, round 1, pick 2, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Pick 33, we're taking Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State. At pick 67, it's TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. 94 is Savion Williams, the wide receiver out of TCU. 104, we got Devin Neal, the new workhorse running back out of Kansas. And then at 179, we took Kobe King, linebacker out of Penn State. 192, Oronde Gadsden II, tight end out of Syracuse. And then at 200, we took Justin Wally, the cornerback from Minnesota. 216 was Logan Brown, offensive tackle from Kansas. And then finally at pick 255 was RJ Mickens, the safety from Clemson. So that wraps up mock draft 3.0, kind of rounding out here this first week of free agency, this first wave. The Browns have done, like I said at the beginning, very little. I'll just recap one more time. Offensive tackle, swing tackle, Lucas Cornelius. We've traded for, I hope it's quarterback 3, Kenny Pickett. At worst, quarterback 2. If it ends up being quarterback 1, we be totally screwed. But anyway, we on the defense, that's it for offense. On the defensive side of the ball, it's we re-signed Devin Bush at linebacker. We signed Malik Collins at defensive tackle. And we signed outside linebacker, edge rusher, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. That's it, really, so far. So we'll see what ends up happening here this weekend. Again, by the time you guys watch this, maybe some big news is broken. And anything that happens this weekend, we're coming to you guys live Monday night from that 500 episode celebration at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And anything big that happens this weekend, obviously, we'll post about it, talk about it on social media, and we will definitely hit it on the episode Monday night when we do our live show. So make sure you guys come back for that. Stay tuned to everything that the Dogs Podcast is doing. Follow us on all the socials at the Dogs Podcast handle. Everywhere that you want to do social media, we're probably there. Let me know your thoughts on this mock draft, on these players. Do you guys still think it's Shedeur Sanders at 2? I talked about on the last episode, I feel like if they decide not to go quarterback, but they stick at 2, it could be, for me, it would be Travis Hunter. That's just not necessarily what I want them to do, but it's what I believe they will do. And honestly, if we don't do anything at wide receiver during free agency or by trading, we're going to need a playmaker outside of Jerry Jeudy. So the Browns are going to have to make some moves. And like I said, maybe they will have by the time you see this, but we'll break everything else down on Monday night on the live show. So we will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DOGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DOGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. Dangercoffee.com, code DOGS.
Your old or broken phone can let you down when you need it most.
Perfect.
But at Verizon, trade in any old phone from our top brands and get the most for it, up to $2,000 in value. For an amazing new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence and a new line on My Plan. And iPad and Apple Watch Series 10. That's like a 3-for-1. And you can get it on any plan. At Verizon, trade in your old phone for a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, iPad, and Apple Watch. The other guys won't give you that. Visit Verizon.com today. Additional terms apply. Service plan required for Apple Watch and iPad. Up to $2,000 value based on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch.